Hey everybody, welcome to the QuiverCast.
You go left, I go right. Man, this wave is out of sight. Going surfing, going surfing, going surfing with friends.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the QuiverCast. Today we have legendary shaper Jeff Timpone. How are you, Jeff?
I'm doing well.
Let's talk about your name real quick. I've heard it pronounced several different ways. What's the correct way? Is it Timpone or Timpone?
Timpone.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That's the way my dad wanted it. My parents were born on the east side of Chicago, and around not the turn of the century, but 1914 and 1919. So they grew up during the Depression and the Roaring '20s and all that. And there was this guy Al Capone, famous.
Yes.
So they didn't want to be associated with the Pone part, so they said Timpone.
So you guys Americanized it, basically, you think?
Whatever it is they did, they did. The name was actually changed at Ellis Island from Tortorella or some unusual Italian name when my dad's parents came in.
Oh, so you changed your surname?
Yes.
Do you know what the original surname was?
Well, I'm pretty sure it was Tortorella.
So how do you feel about that?
It never affected me.
Okay.
So, the only thing that affected me is like when I was in Little League, I'd be the last kid standing there, and they goes, "Is Tim here? Is Tim?" Well, my first name is Jeff, right?
Yeah.
Tim Pony. Oh no, that's me. That's the only effect it ever had on me.
It's an interesting story right there. So your parents are Italian?
Yeah, actually, my dad was Sicilian Italian, and my mom, as we found out after the 23 and me and all that stuff, we always thought she was Polish, but she turned out to be more Russian.
Wow. Okay.
So go figure. She was from that part of the world. Her parents were.
Did you ever take a DNA test?
You know what? I'm going to have one. My girlfriend set it all up for me. She's due in here on Tuesday, and we're going to do it together.
There you go. Okay. Interesting.
So I guess I'll find out what the hell I really am.
I think you're going to be shocked, to be honest with you. I took it and I was shocked.
Yeah. Like I said, it'll be interesting for sure.
So let's talk about surfing. You grew up a little bit inland from Huntington Beach, La Mirada, am I correct?
Yes. I was actually born in Queen of Angels, right in downtown LA. While we were living in a place called Boyle Heights back then, and now it's kind of like gang territory, but back then it was the Italian neighborhood.
Yes, okay.
And then my parents moved to Downey and then La Mirada, which is just up the street from Knott's Berry Farm.
And then you guys had a family restaurant, right? Or a chain of them, kind of?
Yeah, they had 4 of them, all owned by my dad's brothers and sisters. It was a family deal, but they were called Timpone's Italian Cuisine.
How long did those last?
Oh God, a long time. Even when they sold them, the one of them they ended up getting back at least once because the people that bought it thought, "Oh, this is a money pit. You don't have to work." Well, the restaurant business it's tough. I barely saw my dad growing up. He'd leave at 7 a.m, come home at 11 at night.
Yeah, no, gnarly. And working his ass off, I'm sure.
So anyway, but they had to go from, once they opened the first one in like 1958 and closed the last one in probably the mid-'70s. So over 20 years.
Good restaurant? Like, did you enjoy eating there?
I was just talking to a good friend, Paul Husenstadt, who started Newport Surf and Sport.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And he was the salesman at the Russell Surfboard shop down on the peninsula in Newport Beach. And he goes, "God, whenever we go surfing," because he lived in Whittier,
okay,
which is the next town inland.
Yeah, right there.
From La Mirada. So we all kind of knew all the inland surfers, so we all kind of hung together. But anyway, he goes, "Your parents had the best pizza, and we always got it for free. It was so cool."
That is cool. Yeah.
I think he liked the free part as much as he liked any of it, right?
And pizza's there's no going wrong with pizza. There's so many different styles, but they're so good.
No. Like I said, I still say there's no such thing as bad pizza.
There can be, but very few. You got to really screw up pretty bad.
Yes. No, it's funny. If we were on camera, I have one of my parents' original menus stuck to the wall in my shaping room. And
Wow.
I look at the prices, I go, how did you make any money? A cheese pizza was $1.
Gnarly. It was a different time. Inflation wasn't what it
Yeah,
is today, but yeah.
yeah, but it was still like $1. With
Yeah.
your overhead, I mean, you had a little. The rent must have been $80 a month or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it probably was pretty reasonable. So you get on the surfing craze. How did that start?
I want to say it had to be like 1962. One of the things that my dad and I did do together is we went fishing. And we were fishing off the Huntington Pier, and I saw a guy ride away from the north side and go right into the pier. And I just went, wow, that looks really cool. I got to do that. It took me probably a year and a half to actually buy myself a board because my parents, they were great, but they weren't into buying me stuff that they thought was going to kill me. So I picked up bottles along the side of the road and just worked at, literally did bust tables and washed dishes and made garlic bread at the restaurant, the one that they were running, which was on Firestone in Downey, right next to Norm Reeves Honda. On my birthday in 1963, I went down and we bought me a brand new pop-out Belsey
Wow.
for
Okay.
$89 or something.
Which was a lot of money back then, kind of, right?
Yeah, no, it was to me it seemed like the world.
Right.
But also because I lived in La Mirada and wasn't old enough to drive yet, so I had to rely on Mom to once or twice a month would take me and a couple of friends down to the beach and pack our boards on top of the Buick and and drive down. And she'd always set up her umbrella facing inland. She goes, "I want with you." Oh, I don't want. I'm not going to watch you get killed out there. I thought the board was going to hit me in the head and kill me. We would go to the cliffs, like 13th Street. My parents went into partnership with another family, the Holcomb family, and they had the Ho Tai apartments on 13th and Oliver. So it was one of the first apartment buildings on that side of the town.
Oh, wow.
We started going a little more regularly to oversee and to clean up when people moved out and stuff.
So the cliffs was the go-to spot.
Yeah, for me, because back then I'd paddle a little bit, but we'd mostly walk our boards out in the shallows, turn them around.
And hit the whitewash.
Yeah, just get the whitewash, hop up. You go 10, 12 feet and fall off, and we were just having the time of our lives.
Of course.
It was great.
So as you progress, are you staying on the same equipment or is boards changing? Like, let's say mid-60s.
In the early 60s, we're on the same equipment, but then when I started driving, the boards were starting to change. I had like a 9 Ford, and I went down and I ordered a 10-foot nose rider.
Okay.
From the guy I used to get my boards when it was Sonny Vardaman, when I think Bruce Jones was his shaper at the time. So I got my last board that that's a good question. Which was the last board I bought? I might have bought a Russell.
Okay.
From Russell. But the designs were changing so fast as far as the sizes were coming down and the fins were getting smaller. And the boards are definitely getting more maneuverable. I was young, healthy, and had figured out the movement part of it. So I was getting to be a decent surfer. I don't want to say I was a great surfer, but I could surf. One day I went down to try to buy, the most current thing. And it was like the surf shop had junk. Basically, it was stuff that they were trying to sell that was already obsolete.
Yeah.
And so
a
friend of mine had built a 710. And I took that and rode it for a while, and it worked really good. It was a great board. Stripped that down into a 7.2 and glassed it in a friend's garage down at Salt Creek. Then I went to the islands, went over to Russell's, bought a blank and strapped it to my board and went to the islands. Was living in Waikiki for a while. I walked into a job building boats right in Honolulu. Kind of started learning all about fiberglass and resin. And the boat guy that owned the boat shop, he goes, "Hey, you can build as many boards as you want here with the materials," because we were burning through drums of resin. When you're spraying catalyzed resin, you go through drums pretty quick. And the boats were 27 and 33-foot fishing boats. And I didn't build a lot of boards, but I started, instead of doing strip downs, I started buying blanks, just real crude. I know the boards were horrible, but because I made them and I was going to ride them anyway, I guess I made them work and they felt good. There was a lot of other stuff going on in my life at the time with the Vietnam War and all that. I was bouncing back and forth between Hawaii and the West Coast, building boards here and there. And I finally started landing jobs in the industry. After I'd been in the islands till about, what I want to say it was like 1972, I had moved back because all the guys on the boat crew had sailed off to Tahiti and never came back. So I had a job but no crew. And so anyway, I went home and got hired to sand boards in a place called Surf Glass up in Santa Ana. It's this guy Sterling Santley, but the laminator there was Greg Martz, who was the guy who started the Watermen's Guild. He was a La Mirada boy. So we had met each other through surfing and being inland surfers. He called me one night and says, "Hey, there's a job coming up. Just be here first thing in the morning." And next thing I knew, I was sanding 20 boards a day. It was all those Nuevas with the eagle on them.
David Nueva boards?
Yeah, they were David Nueva boards. And I was doing some because Steve Bainey was already doing infinities. But Terry Martin shaped all those Nueva boards. And
okay.
Absolute master. But I couldn't believe the guy would show up every day with this big white van just plugged full of boards. I mean, there had to be 15, 20 shaped blanks in there, like every day.
Before you started shaping, let's talk about the surfing itself. Like, were you surfing a lot? Obviously, you're driving up and down the coast. If you had a friend in Salt Creek and you had other places.
Those were more or less when I was in high school.
Okay.
I was out of high school maybe a year when I reshaped and made that first board. And then I moved to Honolulu, and then we ended up living at Rocky Point for 2 years. Just after the big swell of 1969, we moved to Kauai. We had built a boat for the guy he had a 4-door pickup truck. It was the Air Force surplus pickup truck. We built a camper shell on it, angle iron, and sprayed some marine plywood with resin and knocked it all together and shipped it to Kauai. And we lived in a camper truck over there for 2 years.
Nice.
And we got our surf and work schedules in line where we surfed Monday through Friday, and then we would fly to Oahu and build a boat over the weekend. So I got a lot of good surfing, and surf Rocky Point, Sunset, Laniakea, Haleiwa. When the winds were right, we would go around and surf Mokulāea side a lot on the North Shore, on Oahu.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of surfing for 5 years there. It was way more surf than work.
I bet. But when you're in California, before you started making these trips to Hawaii, how are you treated as an inland surfer, a guy not living on the beach, especially back in those days?
I never noticed too much of that particular thing. Okay. And we would, the crowds were so minimal, and we would go down and surf places like Beacons in
Leucadia, yeah,
or Leucadia, or even Swami's. It wasn't that crowded, and no one ever said, "Hey, where are you from?" Or, I never got any of that till much later when guys started copping attitudes. Well, we would go down. Well, no, that was actually in the 80s when I would go down, because a couple of my team riders were going to Cal Western there above Sunset Cliffs. And we'd go down and surf New Break and Chasm and those places down there. No one ever bothered us.
So going back to the board's design changing, did that fascinate you, or was it just the times?
A lot of it was just the times. We were building those boats basically in downtown Honolulu, a block away from Ala Moana Center. Pi'ikoi Street, there was Surfline Hawaii Shop, where Brewer was putting his first little pocket rockets in their shortboard. And we'd go over there and someone would distract the salesman and we'd literally pull out a tape measure and start measuring widths and nose width. And that was what we were trying to emulate because, even back then, Brewer was the guy.
He was. Yeah.
And boards were like $150, but we were too cheap. I enjoyed building boards. I mean, there was no surf glass or a place like that over on Oahu. You had to kind of do your own thing. So being in that boat shop, I was able to make fins and glass my own boards and sand my own boards. So I kind of figured that part of it out. So I could build a board in a couple of days. I mean, they weren't pretty, but
it was good practice.
But they wrote. And, the North Shore, you would go through boards pretty quick. I'm talking pre-leash.
Yeah.
So you not only did a lot of swimming, but your board you were doing almost repairs almost daily.
Hitting stuff.
Yeah, cool. We lived at Rocky Point. Well, they don't call it Rocky Point
for nothing. When you're going kind of back and forth West Coast and Hawaii, and the boards are changing, and you're fascinated with this shit. Are you? I mean, I guess I'm putting words in your mouth, but were you fascinated with shaping?
No. There was no grand plan, but I loved doing it. It was real challenging. And it wasn't until I started working at Russell's, I got hired. I got hired to sand boards at Surf Glass, and I don't even know how many boards I sanded that summer. Businesses was a little more seasonal back then. So at the end of summer, maybe it was September, October, they said, well, look, we got an opening down at the surf shop on Coast Highway on the north side of the pier. Mm-hmm. If you want to go down there, you can live there and sell boards during the day. And, anyway, I went down there and was there for a few months. And then Russell Surfboards pulled up one day and said, I need a sander. Well, he knew I knew how to sand. So I said, I'll be there tomorrow.
Okay.
The Brotherhood was a really great place to work. And it was, it's kind of prestigious. And the guys that were all there were all real, masters. Like the two guys that were shaping there was Bruce Jones and this guy, Mike O'Day. They were master shapers. So I got to watch them. And Mike O'Day was kind of an unknown, but he was a true master. I know he taught Bruce a lot of stuff as far as for being a little more on the production side.
Wow. Okay.
Bruce was making great boards, but he could do one a day. Well, at the Brotherhood, you had to do, 2 to 4 a day to make the quotas. We were glassing 8 boards a day, pretty consistently, 40 boards a week, every week.
Wow. Bruce Jones, they're shaping boards. Are they experimenting, or are they kind of staying on this normal standard of the time?
I would say 75% of the boards that came in were custom orders.
Okay. And
when I first started there, the shortboard revolution was still working its way into the mainstream. Mm-hmm. So the boards were all pretty gunny, racy single fins between 7 foot and 8'6". The boards weren't that small. Yeah. What happened there was, and I was making all the fins and sanding all the boards, when fin boxes first started, I started doing that too. Also, when an order would come in, say for a knee board or just a 6'2" short board, someone would, out of the blue would order something. Well, the two masters would go, well, let Timpone do that. He can, practice on that. So I'd stay after hours and shape whatever the board was, be it a knee board or a short board or something that was just unusual. And, in the morning, then they'd come in and they'd critique my work, sometimes till I was in tears, but they showed me all of my screw ups, showed me how to look at the boards and how to make the deck lines and everything flow, and taught me how to make templates. And some of the stuff I just learned through osmosis from being there. Yeah. But it was all stuff that I never thought about when I first started shaping boards. I remember when I was living on the North Shore of Oahu, I was living with an Australian, a South African, and a couple of other guys from my high school days. Bob McTavish showed up because he knew the Australian guy. And I watched him hand sketch an outline on a board in the backyard, shape it by hand with no electric power tools and get it glassed up, and was surfing the couple days later at Rocky Point. It was the best surfing I'd ever seen. It was so contemporary,
Wow.
because our boards, we were still chasing that real, by then we were chasing the Barry Kanaya Pony Tiger Aspire 15-inch wide, 8-foot guns.
Yeah.
With a little teeny fin on it. Well, I saw McTavish ride this little and he's small stature of a guy.
Yeah. He's not a very tall guy.
But his board might have been 6 foot. He was absolutely just doing carves and cutbacks and stuff I'd never seen before. Like I would take off on a head high or overhead wave at Rocky Point because my board was so long and gunny and narrow. All I could do was break the fin out and start side slipping, let the thing tube over me, and then I'd re-engage the rail and pop out the end, and that was my ride. And it was all, based on the equipment we were riding. And so when I saw McTavish, I went, oh man, that's how I want to surf. So I changed my whole MO. I went down to wider, stubbier, 7 foot, because I was 6'1", but I was super skinny.
How'd that feel? That transition, was it an easy transition? It seems like the board probably worked better, so it's probably easy transition. No,
it was a total easy transition. Some of it I have to attribute to the waves. The North Shore they don't call it the miracle, 7 Mile Miracle for nothing. Every spot. Yeah, a lot of power. Then the waves, that stretch from, say, Rocky Point to Backdoor or Log Cabins, that's a shore break with shape. It's some of the most powerful surf. It's the most powerful surf I was ever in. When we moved to Kauai, Hanalei was an incredible wave. When it gets some size, it's as juicy as anything. And there was a couple other spots that we surfed a lot. It was just barrels. But it also was still pre-leash, so we were swimming around everywhere.
You look at these boards today, the ones we were talking about, the gunny shaped boards, the ones with real narrow tails and kind of wide, way above the middle. What do you think of those boards today? I mean, in my opinion, they don't work, but it was that's why that's why the whole thing keeps progressing. Yes.
And I have people who still want me to build them boards from that era. I always modern them up a little bit. I mean,
of course,
there's a reason that people stopped riding those boards. The performance levels have gone through the roof.
Right. I mean, I can see riding one today for nostalgia reasons, just to go screw around an old man's or something. It sounds like the place.
Yeah, or at a place like, how can I say this?
Okay.
How can I say this gently? No, I'm 76 years old. I'm not that young. I mean, my surfing ability is on this crash dive.
Yeah, I get that.
I still love it to death, and I'm having fun with when I do it. But I could see taking a board like that out at Honolulu Bay when it's 8 feet.
Oh wow! Okay.
Stroking in, getting in, because the board's going to hold. Even as a single fin, it's going to. All you got to do is drop in and make the turn and pull up the face and
draw your line.
Yeah, and that was what those boards I always thought were made for. But we were riding them in slop, 2-foot Huntington slop. It was like, I was so happy when the twin fin, when MR came up with that twin fin, and actually by that time I was still working at Russell's and Stussy was there.
Wow. Okay.
Sean was he got hired after Bruce Jones went on to open Bruce Jones surfboards up in Sunset Beach. They hired Sean. And then when O'Day went to work for the phone company, because his wife had convinced him and she was a smart woman, that there was no retirement in surfboards. So he worked for the phone company. But when O'Day left, that's when I got kicked up to shaper. And by then I had, I had a good technique, and those guys had really buffed me out. We were all super friendly, and we used to do all these wonderful 3-week to a month-long trips to Baja, camping and fishing and surfing.
Were you guys friendly or friends?
We were close. We were friends.
Okay, cool. Was there competition?
No, I don't. When we worked at Russell's, and especially as a shaper, we were shaping Russell's. We weren't,
Right.
It wasn't until the last year that Sean and I started. Russell let us put our names on them. I think I still get some people that send me photos of a board that I might have, and I had my initials on it.
Wow.
But at first, we just put a number on it. There was no identifying marks. We were building boards for Russ, and we wanted them to all kind of look the same.
Yeah, you're going under his label, so that makes sense too.
Yeah, they were Russells. They weren't Timpones or Stussies or O'Days or Joneses. It was a pretty tight crew. We had a lot of fun. I mean, it wasn't always perfect. There was some fighting that went on too.
Of course,
that just goes in close quarters, and I can't remember how many times there'd be a swell, and we'd meet at the shop at like 7. We'd load up our boards and be driving out of the parking lot heading for Trestles, and Russ would just be pulling in with this horrible look on his face because he knew we were gone for the day.
At what point do you decide, or was it decided for you, to go out on your own?
It was decided for me in an unusual way. There was a lot of stuff, extracurricular activities going on back then. Drugs, basically.
This is what years? 70s? 80s?
This would have been the late 70s.
Okay, for sure.
It was this progression, and all of a sudden, a couple of the guys, it was Paul and Vinny Sides. Vinny replaced me as the sander and fin maker, and his brother Paul and I started at Russell's about maybe a week or two apart. He was a polisher. He polished 6 to 8 boards a day. You have to remember, this is before there was like matte finish boards. All the boards were glossed and polished with resin pin lines and all, pre-airbrushing. All the boards were done with laminated color work.
Beautiful stuff.
Oh yeah, no. And the guy, Randy Ladow, was an incredible laminator. And like I said, we had a real good crew there. But people started dropping by the Sides. The Sides brothers, Paul and Vinny, who were identical twins, just 2 studly guys. They went to work for Bruce Jones up in Costa Mesa. Bruce had had a factory up there on, 19th and Placentia.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ladow left, and all of a sudden I was the last one. I kind of saw the writing on the wall. By then I had I was living with my girlfriend, and who ended up being my wife of 37 years.
Okay, good.
And we did good. We had 2 beautiful kids.
Yeah.
But I realized that I had to do something, and I was standing in the old office looking across the little industrial park, and I just literally walked over there, and there was my shop.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. It was an industrial building, but it was a perfect setup for a little office. And my shaping room, a little tank storage, and a compressor to blow the dust off. It was kind of a leap of faith. And I remember telling myself, boy, if I could just get to where I could do 10 boards a week, I'd be kicking ass. Well, I guess I had made an impression on on somebody. And I had a couple of the team riders, Nick Roth and guys like that, were getting boards from me. Before I knew it, I was doing 20 boards a week. Just kind of kept growing. I got a good-sized Japanese account, a place called The Surf over in Tokyo. They bought a shitload of boards.
During this period when you're growing your own personal business, are you surfing more, surfing less, or was it like just work?
I tried to surf every morning. That was one of my missions. I'd get up early because I lived right on Huntington Street, Huntington and Indianapolis. And I'd just drive straight down the street, go check out the pier, do a U-turn, go down and drive back right down to my own street and paddle out down there.
Wow.
And Huntington, it's got a wave like 300 days a year. There's something surfable out there.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much every day, actually, you can find something.
Yeah, it was a downgrade from Kauai. And, like I said, having my own business, that's one of the things about having a business is you got to drive yourself. You have to be self-motivated.
100%. Yeah.
You're not worried about punching the time clock. If it takes you 8 hours to get the job done for that day, you do it. If it takes 15 hours, we're staying late.
Yeah. So you have a family too, though. Are they coming to the shop and hanging out with you, or are you like kissing your wife at 6 a.m?
My wife would come by. sometimes bring me lunch and stuff like that. But mostly when the kids were little, they're just, they were just groms at home.
Right. Okay. So you transitioned and you pretty much build that business in Southern California for quite a while, right?
I had from 80 to 88, I had Timpones. Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, it was great. And it was just a circumstance happened that something was telling me I needed to get back to Hawaii. I guess I had an itchy foot at the time. I had done a little bit too much bouncing around when I was young, and I wasn't quite over it yet. So the two twins that I had mentioned from the Brotherhood, Paul and Vinny, they had moved to Maui, and they were working at a place called Sailboards Maui. And I came over to visit them one time, and they convinced me that the next time I came back to bring my tools, because the shapers that were here, there was orders for all these sailboards, windsurfers. And they were glassers and sanders and polishers and laminators. And they thought that I could help them out by doing a few more boards. I remember taking my tools the next time I went back and stayed for 2 or 3 weeks, and I want to say I came home with almost $5,000.
Wow,
and I still surfed every day. Well, doing sailboards, they paid very well, and so I ended up being like the roving shaper. I kept coming back.
Okay,
and when I was shaping for all 3 of the major sailboard builders over here on Maui at the time was Angulo, Sailboards Maui, and High Tech. So I was kind of doing boards for all of them, their overflow, or if one of their guys took some time off, I got in there.
Okay.
And ended up going into business with one of the gentlemen. And I've never had good luck with partners, so that only lasted a year. And then I just hung my little Timpone shingle again, and away I went.
You leave Southern California, Huntington Beach, which has a crowded market. You got so many shapers on Main Street. You got guys in Newport Beach, which is right down the road. A lot of legendary shapers we look back on today are like some of the best shapers in the world. And then you have, all the clothing company. Basically, the epicenter of surfing, you kind of leave. You kind of walk away, it sounds like.
Yeah, you know what? I did it. I could have stayed, some of it there was, I think I was at that tipping point where I could have been way bigger than I wanted to be. I mean,
yeah,
everyone wanted boards. There was an oil spill. People stopped buying boards. That had to be in 87 or 88.
Yeah. Sounds right.
I had already made my decision to leave, but people were getting laid off. I guess what I'm trying to say is I could have expanded and just gone into not mass production, but it probably could have been, if I would have spread out, grabbed some dealerships up in the South Bay and down in San Diego, I could have expanded my business and been doing a lot more and hiring ghost shapers, because there was no shaping machines at the time.
Right.
So, and I already actually had a couple of those when I was doing 40 a week. My Japanese account was blowing up. I had Newport Surf and Sport was doing a shitload of boards, and I was doing a ton of customs. I had all the kids from Huntington High, the team riding my boards. The amount of work that we were doing. Anyway, I made a conscious decision to shrink instead of growing. And this is something I've realized about myself along the way, that I like being in control of stuff more than out of control.
There's some big names out there now that kind of, you can get a board anywhere in the world with that label on there. I won't say any names, but we know Lost or whoever. Do they have control of what products actually going out? Does that make sense? Where you today you're touching every board.
Do, but a lot of those companies, and this is just me talking, I have no idea of the dynamics, but they're profit driven. I'm sure they have investor. No one can do that kind of growth on a surfboard builder's income without investors, and that's something that I've never, like I said, I've had a couple of partners and it just never worked out. So
I love that. Yeah,
I would rather just fly on my own, and just like everything, I've kind of made it work. After I finish shaping a board, I'm pretty sure I know when it's going to get glass because my son, Nick, does all the laminating and sanding and glossing. I just came down from polishing. That's my 2 jobs here are, well, 3, or I mean 4. I mean, no.
No, I believe you. Yeah.
No, I shape, I polish, I sell, I pack, I ship,
Yeah.
But you know what? We're making it work. Couldn't be happier with the way this whole thing's going right now.
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work, but it sounds like you're satisfied. There's satisfaction at the end of the day.
Yeah. No, and I can still, like, there's a South Swell right now. It takes me 40 minutes to drive to the other side of the island, but I can paddle out. Like last night, I went over there, and basically, no crowd. The waves weren't great, but there was waves.
Cool.
I don't need it to be great anymore. If it's chest to shoulder high, I'm a happy camper.
Yeah, totally. Me too.
And the water's warm.
When you leave Southern California, this new move, the final time you went, what are you doing for a living? Like, we're doing sailboards? Are you doing windsurfers? Like,
yes, I moved and I immediately took over a shop in Kahului in Maui. Started building boards for Angulo sailboards, who was very big at the time. There was a shop here, the Maui Windsurf Company, that was buying 15 sailboards every week. So I walked into income, but I did all the shaping and I would sign his name. It was a marriage made in hell. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
I paid him his royalty every week, and then he made me feel like shit. So that's why it didn't last.
Yeah. But you have your name on surfboards. Did you really want your name on a sailboard or anything else, or did you want to keep it core on surfing?
No, on Maui, after I detached myself from Mr. Angulo, I just started building everything, and because I had a reputation as being a good shaper of basically anything, that's what a lot of the guys from the original tow-in crew, the strapped crew, which would have been Dave Kalama, Rush Randall, Pete Cabrina, those guys all gravitated to me because they were all professional windsurfers and they knew I knew what I was doing. And I was open to doing new creative stuff. It didn't start off with towing into Jaws. It started off with those guys putting foot straps on their surfboards and paddling into waves at Hokipa and doing flips and stuff. And it just kind of kept it evolving.
When they started doing the straps and pushing surfing to places where it's never been before, was that board shaped differently than one without straps, like a everyday board?
No. They were basically just high performance short boards.
Cool. All right.
The boards didn't start changing dramatically until they started towing themselves into bigger and bigger surf.
Okay. Which you were involved in, shaping boards.
I would like to think that I was the guy here on Maui that everyone came to, and I did a shitload of boards. Why do I do that? I did a lot of boards.
Yeah.
When the whole Jaws phenomenon took off, there were so many traveling windsurfers, and then kite surfing had already been involved. I was involved in early parts of that. I built the kite boards for the first world champ. This guy, Flash Marcus Austin, he was riding my boards, and he won the first 2 world championships riding Timpones.
Nice. Wow.
He was a kid from Florida, and we surfed a hurricane swell when Hurricane Aniki went by. He and I and Dave Kalama surfed this kind of semi-secret spot by freight trains there in Malaya. And this guy was so good. I go, what are you messing around with this kiteboarding stuff? You should be on the freaking tour. He was that good. And he was just a goofy kind of kid who came out here on a whim to figure out the kite surfing thing. And he had a lot to do with the beginnings of that. So he came to me because I think because he knew I had an open mind and I'd be willing to shape just about anything. That evolved into this, small wave tow-in stuff. And then it just kept growing and growing. And then they figured out how to, all of a sudden somebody went up, I think they were windsurfing Jaws. And there were a couple guys that paddled Jaws before, but they started the tow-in thing when they finally figured out, a jet ski works way better than an Avon or a little rubber ducky boat.
Yeah. From a personal memory, I knew who you were in the 80s. And then at some point, as far as I know, like let's say Southern California regular Joe surfer, you kind of disappeared off the scene.
I did. I literally packed up my shit and split.
Okay. So I'm just telling you, this is a personal story that I remember. And then all of a sudden, years later, and it could have been a few years later, but it could have been a decade later, all of a sudden I'm seeing your boards ridden by big wave surfers at Jaws. So, yeah. And I was like, okay, so this guy's still around, but he's just somewhere else.
No, you know what? I just changed locations. You know, so many people would ask friends in California or other board builders who I never had any competition complex with other shapers. I seem to be able to get along with everybody, but so many people thought, I thought he died.
I mean,
what happened to Timpone? He's dead, isn't he? No, you can still order boards. You'll mail them to you. You know.
All right, interesting. I was just telling you a little story that I do recall having that thought in my head. So,
I was blessed to be in the right place at the right time with all that evolution and stuff. And I was saying that like with stand-up paddle boards, Laird and Dave's, there was no blanks to make stand-up paddle boards. So we started just getting the old Clark foam tandem board blanks. That's what we would make. And all the boards, they were 12 foot by 26 wide, which is as wide as you could make them. Turned out the better stand-up paddle boards are 30 inches wide. But those guys figured all that stuff out and came to me to shape their boards.
Going back to Jaws and the big wave surfing part, how did you know what boards would work? What did you do?
Well, a lot of the stuff I relied on feedback from Rush and Dave and Pete Cabrina and Brett Lickle. Mark Angulo was the son of the guy Angulo Sailboards. There was a group of, I want to say 7 of them. And I've only built a handful of boards for Laird. He loved Brewers boards and that, what are you going to do? Hey, you can't please them all. But all the rest of those guys got their boards for me. And it was an evolution. Every year that Jaws broke, we would refine the boards from rocker to width to thickness to length. The board started off as like 8-foot twin fins, asymmetric. Most because nobody went left out there at first. It was everyone went right. So we were making asymmetric twin fins. We would just work on the rockers, which, they were glorified water skis is what they basically were. Because there's no need to paddle. So you can make the board 1 3/4 thick, a deep concave from the entry to the tail. The rails, you wanted them thin to bite, but you wanted them heavy. So we started putting weight in them. That wave out there at Jaws, it might look super clean and everything, but it's bumpy. There's a lot of apparent wind, and there's a lot of cross chop in the wave face. So if you have a 22-pound board and that's 6'2" by 15.5 inches wide by 1 7/8 inches thick, and it's going to go right through those bumps. It's not going to go right over them. It's going to go right through them.
How did you know where to put the weight?
Some of it just was common sense. You would just put it between the rider's feet because you were putting. Because you put foot strap inserts in the boards so they could attach straps to them. You figure out how wide the stance is, and everyone was a little bit different of stature, so it was a couple inches difference between boards. But now it's pretty much universal. I'm still making a few tow boards every year. It's most of the guys are paddling now. Yes. They only tow when it gets too big to paddle at Jaws.
There's so many big wave spots now that 2 decades ago was out of the realm. It wasn't possible to surf. But are people ever hitting you up to go shape a board for like Mavericks or Nazarene or one of these other waves?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I've done tow boards for Nazare. I was actually over there when I turned 70. I kind of got I realized I needed an adventure. So I strapped on a backpack and went to Europe. I'd never been to Europe.
Nice.
So I had a couple friends over there, one who it was an expat living in Nazaré. And so I built him a couple of boards, went to the south of France and ran into Stussy, actually.
Wow. Okay.
He put me up. He's got a nice shack down there, but he put me up in a nice little inn right there in Gittery, which has a beautiful wave out there called Parlamentia. It's like Sunset Beach, but that whole area is choked with good surf. But anyway, I just wanted to do Europe, so I did Paris for a week and Florence, Italy, and actually a couple of weeks in Portugal, which I thought was the best place over there. It was like going back to the 30s in California.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. So rad.
It's really special.
That's awesome. You still have the adventure in you. You're not all settled in.
Yeah. No, I'm not done. I'm not dead yet.
Okay. So leading up to the days where you're doing these strap bores from Jaws and all this, do you have a specific best period of your lifetime, or was it all been fun, or has there been some good points, bad points?
Like if it's all good, you're not living. I've made my share of mistakes, and I've been through, loss of, passed away wife, parents, brother. But that being said, there's been tons of upsides too. I've still got my two beautiful kids and grandkids, and we're all here on Maui. I get to work with my son, who's just an absolute joy. And my daughter's a beautiful young lady who's, got her own business going. And right now things are good. People keep asking me, when are you going to retire? And I go, something, I'm having too damn much fun right now.
Yeah, there you go.
And, shaping now, I don't have to do 5 boards a day or 3 boards a day. I do 1. And it's not backbreaking.
Right.
It's like, I've done it long enough. I've still got my technique I learned back there in the 70s from O'Day and Bruce,
Do you still enjoy shaping?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, because like where my business is right now, we literally do one-off customs. That's basically how people walk in, they want something specific for themselves, or they bring in an old board that I made them 15 years ago. They go, this has been the best board. I just want a duplicate. Every day is, it's a challenge. I got to think. I got to do remeasure. I'm making templates still. I'm doing the basic stuff. And, at this point in my life, I know where I want to be. And it's in my shitty little shop here.
Okay. So you have your son. What has he learned from you? Is he all in? Are you teaching him, or is he doing machine?
No, we're digitizing some of the designs, because at this point
smart.
He doesn't have, he'll never have the time to learn how to shape the way I did. And he could go through the motions, but he just needs to do the numbers. But nowadays it's like, hey, the shaping machine, I do trophies for the Maui Invitational Basketball Tournament.
Wow,
I do all,
nice.
I do stuff like that that's never going to go in the water, and I'm being paid well enough. I run it all through the machine.
Of course, that makes way more sense. Yeah.
We actually just one of my old ghost shapers showed up here and made a proposition. So we're building some boards off of my digital stuff in California at Pure Glass.
Oh,
and we've got
okay.
The boards are in Huntington Surf and Sport.
Okay,
and
nice.
In Flight up in Seal Beach.
All right.
Yeah, Scott Scarborough was a customer. Yeah, right now the designs are kind of limited, but we're expanding weekly.
That's perfect.
I've made some boards for Taylor Pye and his kid, and they seem to like them. They're riding them. So,
going back in the day when you had ghost shapers, are you teaching them how you want your rails and how you want the board? Or are you kind of just letting them do their thing?
Ghost shape back then was I'd put outlines on blanks.
Yeah.
They'd saw them out, band the rails, maybe do the bottom, because you got to remember the bottoms back then were pretty basic, flat with some panel V. Some panel V was the way we were shaping the boards.
Mm-hmm.
And, the 2 guys that I had shaping for me, one was this guy, Jeff Madsen, who's been shaping for Stewart for 25 years. And the other one was Jeff Lausch from Surf Prescriptions.
Okay.
Before he was Jeff Lausch.
Yeah, for
and
Doc.
Both sweet men, nice guys.
Okay.
We're still friends. I mean, we're not hanging out because we're just for far apart, but
right.
we still communicate. You know, I mean, I still talk to Brad Gerlach every once in a while. He rode for me when he went to Huntington High.
That guy's rad, though. Brad's the nicest guy.
Brad, another great guy, nice guy,
and a great surfer.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about, like, from your designs, and I know a couple guys, and I know one guy in particular is like a big, huge fan of you. This guy Neff, he does hand shapes out of north of Santa Cruz. Do you know that you have influenced a handful of shapers?
No, that's good to hear. For some reason, I want to say Neff has been in communication with my son Nick.
I think so too. Yeah, he's a huge fan. Yeah.
Of
your work.
You know, you tell him hi for me, please.
I will.
You know, if he's tried to contact me and I haven't responded, it's only because I get too many contacts.
No,
between emails, direct messages, texts. You know.
I believe you.
Too many ways to communicate for my old brain.
Yeah. What was your thought, especially through the periods of time of your life? Were you open to teaching new other shapers to shape?
I kind of got over that after a while, after teaching a few guys that ended up going into business in the same area as me. And, you know, I mean, I don't want this to sound weird, but it's just like I was talking to somebody about that exact thing. Hey, you want to be a shaper? Give me 25,000. I'll make you a shaper.
There you go.
You know, it's like, it's my time. It's my energy. I put in the work, you know, I put on the miles on my feet and ankles and legs. Like I said, I've been blessed. You know, my health's still good. I'm still surfing. It ain't pretty, but I'm still surfing.
That's get in the water. I think it's important.
Yeah, no, just paddling out, I feel blessed. But as far as sharing secrets, there's no secret to share. If you want to build boards, you just build them.
You just got to get dirty.
Yeah, you got to get your hands dirty.
Yeah,
you know, and for me, see, I was blessed, like I said, to be in the right place, right time. Russell needed someone to mow out 30 boards a week. You know, I'm your guy.
Yeah,
no problem. I got this. You know, and the first couple of years, I'm sure the boards got better and better and better because that's how you get good at shaping.
At anything you do in life.
Yeah. It's the reps. You're putting in the reps.
Is shaping an art form or is it a trade?
Both. I'd just have to say both. You know, now I tell people it's my art project. This is what I do. But it's a trade as well. You know, I mean, if you're getting computer shapes and you're standing out 10 a day, that's more of a trade than an art form. With what I'm doing is, like I said, I'm hand shaping old school one a day. They're one-offs. So I'd say and this is just in my feeble mind, that's art.
Yeah, I would agree. Did you number your boards? Do you know how many boards you've shaped in your lifetime?
You know, it's somewhere around 35,000.
Wow. All right.
I mean, the last, you know, from this, I want to say I did about 6,500 for Russell. You know, when I opened Timpone's those first few years, I was doing, well, just from knowing how many my discounts I was getting from Clark Foam, I was doing, you know, 1,500 a year. So that was anyway, I've kind of kept loose numbers, but there was a lot of, you know, shaped blanks that went out in swaps for God knows what over the years. Just with the numbers that I have, it's around 35,000.
Nice. Is the hand shaping, I know there's guys that do it. There's always going to be some guys that do it. But with machines coming around and being available pretty much everywhere now.
Yeah.
Are we losing the art form?
Yeah, you know, I still think that there's some art and soul into the hand shaping thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I've got friends that build boards religiously, and they just say that the machine is another tool. And like I said, if I was doing more than I'm doing, I'd be probably doing a lot more on the machine. But because I'm doing literally one a day, I can deal with that. There's still, thank God, there's a guy in California in Capo Beach that still works on. I'll send him my planers and he'll, fix them up and get them running. Yeah, again, I get them back, and I've got a good rotation. I want to say I've got maybe 6 or 7, those original 7.5 amp skill planers. I can't seem to get off of them. I've tried a couple other ones, and they're just like, the skill is just too comfortable.
Okay.
Or maybe my body is just adjusted to it after this time.
Well, it's like a surfboard too. Like you kind of get into what you like and how you and how you surf. Do you like that everybody's riding all different kind of equipment these days? In the 80s, everyone was riding the thruster. Everyone, in the 60s, 70s, were all just staying in this box.
Selfishly, I like doing different stuff. One of the reasons I did leave California was because I got sick of just doing mindless 5.8 to 6.2 squash tail thrusters.
No, 100%.
I'm looking at my little rack of stock boards that I've got, and I've got a 5.8 to a 9.2.
Wow.
So I got some mid lengths. I've got like a semi gun, some step ups, kind of more Hawaiian stuff. But I like doing different stuff. To me, it's way more challenging and more fulfilling.
Yes. When you go out and surf nowadays, like when you surfed yesterday, do you have a particular board you have in mind, or what are you surfing mostly? Are you back to the longboarding days?
I have two boards I've been riding. Okay. Let's just put it this way: my short board is 810.
Perfect. No, no,
but
that's life.
But I'm riding mostly. I ride a 9.9 longboard. I'm 76 and probably 220 pounds.
Right. Okay.
And I'm in decent condition. Like I'm overweight, but I'm fit to
Who's
to
not?
a point. Yeah.
It's a good life.
I'm proud of my, not even a dad bod, now it's a grandpa body.
There you go. What is the future of Timpone? So your son's going to take over, or has he officially taken over, or what's going on?
No,
there?
I would say we're more partners.
Okay, there you go. The one partner you can actually live with.
I'm still paying him. He's way smarter than me. He just sees stuff from a different perspective. He's 38 years old now.
Right.
He sees it from a younger perspective, and I don't mind listening to some of his ideas, and they've all been pretty damn good. So,
and times are changing. Like, every generation.
And if you don't change with them, you're going to get trampled underfoot.
Right. Do you think that surfing is as good as it was back in the 70s? I'm just talking in general. There's a lot of new surfers. There's a lot more crowds. But at the same time, more people are surfing, and that's cool.
Yeah. No, you know what? I don't frequent the crowded spots with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Maui kind of figured out as far as there's well-known places, but they don't get crowded, or the reef is spread out. So there's room for more people, or I'm going to the places where there's a couple of stand-up paddlers and a bunch of wahinis and a bunch of grandmas.
Yeah.
That's the crowd I'm dealing with. Yeah.
Awesome.
But, building boards back in the day, it was definitely more work, but I don't want to work that hard anymore. I am enjoying where I'm at right now. I got a really nice gal friend that lives in Cayucas, and she's going to be here on Tuesday for a couple of weeks. And
oh, cool.
Yeah, and I go up there and hang out, but I don't surf or build boards or anything up there.
It's a little chilly.
I'll never set foot in that water.
And they have those elephant seals that are pretty gnarly right there. Those things are.
Well, she's a wildlife. She was a nurse for 39 years, and now she's a wildlife photographer. She retired.
Oh, perfect
and
spot.
So we go up to in between Cayucas and Hearst Castle, and there's these. You go to this one beach; it's covered in those elephant seals.
Yeah, gnarly, right? Imagine surfing, then one of those things show up. They're thousands of pounds.
Yeah,
so crazy.
I had a close encounter with a monk seal in Kauai when my kids were little, and it surfaced right next to me. I thought it was a damn submarine. It was so big. That was a monk seal. They're not even that big.
Wow. Looking back on life now, and you're not dead, I know that, and you still have a lot more going, but you're looking back at some of your contemporaries, people that you worked with maybe, or some people that you worked alongside, or maybe were your competition in selling boards. But that 80s period, 70s, even 90s period of like Newport Beach, Huntington Beach, huge names came out of that pretty much are the surf industry, and the guys we're looking at today. Even you got, Sean Stussy, like you said, you have so many big, huge names coming out of that area, that 10 miles of coast. You guys look at each other like, proud of each other? You guys friends?
Yeah, it's funny. I loosely communicate with a lot of people on Instagram. I mean, just Dennis Jarvis,
right.
Spider Surfboard.
Yeah, great guy.
We've been just knocking some stuff back and forth as far as videos and how to make your presentation on Instagram and stuff like that. I'm friends with everybody. I don't have any trips, but also I'm kind of a private guy too. I like my privacy, so I don't. I'm going to go to the boardroom show.
Oh, are you? Cool. I'll see you there.
Last year we had a booth and that was great, but it was way too much work. So we're just going to go this year. Nick and I, we're just going to walk around and
just chill.
Greet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just have fun. Maybe take some t-shirts and hats and try to sell some swag in the parking lot.
There you go. Perfect.
It was so cool to have that booth there because, guys like Jay Larson and Mike Estrada, the guys that were kids, they were getting boards from me when they were kids. And they were coming by, and they're grown ass men. It's crazy.
They are grown ass men.
But no, I've been blessed to mix in with a bunch of people and had mostly good outcomes.
Right. Yeah, good times. Well, Jeff Timpone, thank you so much for coming on the QuiverCast, dude. I'm super excited. I really am grateful you came on. Thank you.
Oh, it was a great talk, and I appreciate you and putting in the time and putting up with me.
The story had to be told. I'm stoked. Well, thank you so much. All right, everybody. All right. Aloha. This is Mike and Jeff Timpone, and we're out of here.
I go right. Man, this wave is out of sight. Going surfing. Going surfing. Going surfing with friends. Ride this wave to the shore. Paddle out, I'm gonna catch 10 more. Going surfing. Going surfing. Going surfing with friends. I don't care if it's wrong or right. I'm gonna do it all day, I'm gonna do it all night. I'm going surfing. Going surfing. Going surfing with friends. Watching up on my way. It's a beautiful day. I'm going surfing. I'm going surfing. Going